back. Thought I would film the vlog today down by the pool and give you a chance to see some pretty little Hawaiian greenery behind me. But of course, I'm irritated, per usual. It seems the yard work here at the apartment complex is never ending, so I've got a guy behind me trimming the trees with some sort of power trimmer that's seriously grating on my nerves. But we'll do the best we can with that. I recently flew home to the East Coast for the holidays, and boy did that flight ever suck. Let me tell you about that for a second as sort of a lead-in to our training material. The first thing that sucked about that stupid flight was the seatbelt. It's just your garden variety little nylon seatbelt, and it's supposed to protect me from what? I have no idea. But I've got this stupid thing on, where I don't have it on, and I have the stewardess constantly reminding me to put it on. But I go to get up, and I'm like, because I forget to take it off, and it ends up gut punching me. So that happened about at least 3 or 4 times in a very long flight to piss me off and make me wonder, why do they even have these things? The only justification I can come up with is to make the cleanup of bodies simpler in the event of a crash, because that damn thing sure as hell is not going to save anybody's life. If that plane goes down, we're all dead. I don't care how well we're strapped in there. So I just don't really get it. And really, I don't even think it would keep me strapped in. I think more than likely that little deal where I was trying to stand up and it was cutting into me would apply tenfold, and I would just be cut off at the waist from the force of the impact. And so my torso would be whirly-birding around the airplane, taking other people out. So I really don't get seatbelts on airplanes. They seem completely unnecessary to me. If the damn thing is going to crash, just let me live my last moments in peace without being constrained by this fucking stupid seatbelt. So, and then the other thing that drove me crazy about this flight, I just have to get this stuff off my chest, is the reclining seat. This thing literally reclines 2 inches. What is the point of that? Just don't have it. I mean, you're basically bolt upright either way, like you're in a church pew. And yet, I have the same flight attendant, who's rather pleasant otherwise, apart from the little reprimands about safety, coming around periodically and telling me that my seat is reclined and that I need to put it in the upright and locked position. I feel like saying, bitch, how do you know? It's the same either way. So I really don't get that either. But all of this actually had me thinking about training, and I'm trying to make, which is it, lemons out of lemonade? I think that's what I do most of the time. I'm trying to make lemonade out of lemons here and come up with something useful in all my little trials and tribulations to share with people. So I was sitting there in my seat thinking about how human beings just muck everything up by adding a bunch of unnecessary junk to everything we do. And training is no exception. I've trained with a lot of people over the years. I've looked at a lot of training programs. I've observed people in gyms, and I just end up scratching my head at a lot of the stuff they do. I really can't think some of this stuff advances them toward any goal whatsoever. I think they just do it to fill time. And as much as I like to train, I don't really think it's necessary to spend 2 or 2.5 hours in the gym just filling time. I'd rather spend a quality hour and get the hell out of there and do some other things that I have to do in my busy day that I'm really trying to make less busy. Anyway, I thought it would be helpful if I outlined a couple of productive routines, and as a way of saying this is really all you need to do to be successful in the gym. So I've trained everything from 2 days a week to 6 days a week over the course of my lifetime. And honestly, the best programs I've ever done were the little 2-day-a-weekers that were just very minimalist in nature and cut to the chase. What I would recommend for a beginner intermediate type lifter is 2 full body training days per week, with 2 days rest between day 1 and day 2, and then 3 days before you start over. So the way I would set that up, I'm sure you've seen something like this before, but there are basically 4 key lifts that I like to include in every program, and then build a few little other things around them. But they are the squat, the bench press, the deadlift, and the overhead press. And the first 3 are pretty obvious. I mean, I compete in powerlifting, so I've almost got to include those 3 or variations. Now, the overhead press, I will say that, you know, it's just a nice one for me to include, but that's not set in stone. If I would choose an upper body lift for that 4th lift, because you've got the squat and deadlift for 2 lower body prime movers in there. So, you know, maybe dips, weighted dips, or incline presses, close grip benches, I guess, if that's something you like. So that 4th lift could be flexible, but I do like the overhead press, the basic old standing press. Back in the day, actually probably in the 50s and 60s, one of the key measures of whether you were a serious weight trainer or not was your ability to press your body weight, strict press your body weight for 1 rep. And it's not an easy task. It might not sound like much, but particularly, there goes that trimmer. Isn't that special? Particularly for a man 200 pounds or greater, you have to train for a little while to be able to press your body weight overhead strictly for 1 rep. And personally, I think an even better measure is to be able to do your body weight for 5 reps. And then, you know, that kind of sets you apart from the average Joe. So anyway, those are my 4 lifts that I try to build training programs around. For a beginner, I would do 2 full body days. So on day 1, say Monday, I would squat and bench press. And on day 2, Thursday, I would deadlift and overhead press. On the squat bench press day, I would probably do some arm training afterwards. Biceps, tricep isolation stuff if you want to. Really not even necessary, truthfully, but you could train some arm stuff on the squat bench press day. I do pretty much absolutely no squat assistance work. Occasionally I'll do some single leg stuff, like some reverse lunges or even single leg presses or something, but not very much of that. On the other training day, the deadlift overhead press day, I would train my lats, and I would probably alternate. 1 week I would train the lats in a horizontal plane with a row, and on the alternate week I would train them in the vertical plane with pull downs or chins, and you could vary the grips there. So that's the basic outline for the full body beginner intermediate workout. I would say that routine will carry you all the way until you can, I'll steal the old Stuart McRobert hard gainer guidelines here, until you can bench press 300 pounds, squat 400 pounds, and deadlift 500 pounds. And this is for a man, you know, between 180 and 220 pounds body weight. If you're a lot lighter or a lot heavier, you're going to have to adjust those standards up or down. But until you can get to the 300, 400, 500 level, I think a basic full body workout like that will serve you quite well in your training. I wouldn't go adding a bunch of stuff to that other than what I mentioned. You could train your abs at both training sessions if you want to. And that's a perfect little workout to get you to the 300, 400, 500 level. Now, if you are older or you're more advanced than that, I would reduce the frequencies even further. I would still train 2 days a week, but now I would go to a split routine, an upper-lower split. So Mondays would be upper body day, and I would simply group the bench press and the overhead press together on upper body day. Thursdays would be lower body day. I would do squats and deadlifts on Thursdays. This gives you more recovery time, particularly for your lower back. Believe it or not, squatting on Mondays and then turning around and deadlifting on Thursdays gets to be a challenge sometimes for recovery, especially with the lower back, as the weights start to climb up there in the 500 plus deadlift range. So this is how I would group it once you're a little bit stronger. On the bench press, overhead press day, I would probably train my arms if I were going to. And on the squat deadlift day, I would train my lats if I were going to. And I think a little bit of that sort of stuff is important. Again, you can do your midsection both days if you like, but that's a really excellent, simple workout for the advanced man, and it allows some variety because you have some choices. When you're bench pressing and overhead pressing together, for example, you don't have to just stick to the main lift. In fact, I might not do that. I would probably, one week I would bench press and do an overhead press variant, like maybe presses in the rack from eye level, where you don't bring them all the way down, or dumbbell overhead presses, or some kind of seated press. So a press variant on that day. And then the next week I would flip-flop it and I would do a bench press variant, like close grips or incline benches or dumbbell bench presses, board presses, or some other partial movement, and do the regular standing press. So that allows you to build some variety into your program. Same thing with the lower body day. One week I would squat and do a deadlift variant, like RDLs or rack pulls from the knees, or possibly even some deficit pulls, although I'm not real big on those like some people are. I think it's hard enough to set up in proper deadlift position with the bar on the floor, much less when you elevate yourself. That sort of, to me, just invites rounding of the lower back in the bottom and injury. But you know, some people like deficits. Certainly I would keep that to a minimal elevation of, I don't know, an inch or two, stand on one plate. And then the next week I would do a squat variation, and I would do my regular competition deadlift from the floor, whether that is a conventional deadlift or a sumo deadlift. I would do my competition deadlift that day. And the squat variation could be box squats or front squats or safety bar squats. There are a myriad there, whatever you like. And that kind of variety is kind of nice for the advanced man or woman. Not necessary on the beginner program that I outlined first. I would just stick to the main basic lifts, get my strength up to 300, 400, 500, and then switch to this advanced program of an upper body day and a lower body day. On either program, if you just absolutely have to do some extra training, you could add a third day. I outlined this on Monday and Thursday, so maybe over the weekend, like on Saturday or something, where you do some body weight stuff, or maybe some kettlebell stuff, a more conditioning oriented workout, just to keep moving and keep the blood flowing. But you don't need any more with the weights, you know, the heavy barbell lifts, and I would stay away from that. If I did anything else, it would be a body weight kettlebell type day, maybe focused a little bit more on conditioning. So I hope you guys found this vlog helpful. Cut the fluff out of your routine and stick to the basics, and you're going to be a lot better off in the long run. I wish I could talk to somebody in the airline industry and give them the same message. Tell them, hey, you guys had the right idea when you got rid of that shitty meal that you served. Nobody liked that damn thing anyway. You were right on point with that. So get rid of the seat belts and get rid of the reclining seat, or make it recline a little more or something. But Jesus, quit running my life while I'm on an airplane. Let me just live. Peace. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you have any questions about the routines, shoot me an email. Maybe I'll address them in a future blog.